The market doesn't talk. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't comfort you after a loss or congratulate you after a win. It only reflects you. Every candle is a pulse, a mirror of your own heartbeat. Every chart, a silent reflection of your state of mind. When you look at the screen and see volatility, you're not seeing danger. You're seeing your own uncertainty. That's the first truth most traders never see. That the market is not your enemy. It's your mirror. The moment you open a trade, something changes inside you. Your mind begins to divide itself, one part observing, the other clinging to the outcome. And that's where ego slips in. Ego doesn't want to trade. Ego wants to win. It wants to be right, to be recognized. To feel like it's in control of something far greater than itself. So it hides beneath logic. Beneath technicals. Beneath the illusion of mastery. But deep down, ego is terrified. Because it knows, the market cannot be controlled. Not by you, not by anyone. It moves in waves of probability. And it only rewards those who can surrender to that uncertainty. The market doesn't attack you. It exposes you. Every loss, every win, every hesitation is a reflection of your mental structure. It shows where patience ends, where greed begins, and where fear quietly lives. You think the chart is testing your strategy. But what it's really testing is your self-control. A trader's biggest enemy isn't volatility. It's the illusion of understanding. That moment when you believe, I finally figured it out. That's when you stop observing. And start expecting. And when expectation replaces observation, ego takes control of the wheel. Ego turns trading into identity. You stop saying, I took a loss. You start saying, I lost. You merge your self-worth with your P&L. And now every red candle isn't just a move in price. It's a personal attack. That's why most traders self-destruct. Not because they lack knowledge, but because they can't separate who they are from what the market does. The truth is brutal, but simple. The market doesn't know you exist. You are a ghost to it. A temporary pulse in an infinite ocean of data. And yet, you try to fight the ocean, trying to control its waves. Ego believes in control. Awareness believes in flow. That's the difference between the trader who survives and the one who breaks. When the chart moves against you, the untrained mind resists. It fights the loss, hoping it will reverse. It argues with reality. But every second spent fighting what is only increases your suffering. The disciplined mind doesn't argue. It accepts. It doesn't mean it gives up. It means it understands. Because acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is clarity. When you accept what the market is showing you, you begin to see it for what it truly is. Not chaos, not manipulation, but energy moving between extremes of human emotion. Fear drives it down. Greed drives it up. And ego rides both sides of that movement, believing it can tame the waves, instead of learning to surf them. There's a moment. Every trader experiences it, where silence fills the room after a devastating loss. The screen goes dark. The hands stop moving. And for the first time, you realize it wasn't the market that destroyed you. It was your own reflection staring back from the monitor. You've seen it before. That still image in the glass of your screen. The faint outline of a tired face. Eyes searching for patterns in chaos. Desperate to find meaning in noise. That reflection isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. Because every time you trade, You are not trading against others. You are trading against yourself. Every impulsive entry is a negotiation with fear. Every premature exit is a confession of doubt. Every revenge trade is ego trying to reclaim control. The trader who understands this stops fighting. He doesn't react to the chart. He observes it. He doesn't chase validation. He seeks understanding. The goal is not to remove ego, but to see it clearly. To know when it's whispering. To recognize when it's steering you toward danger. Once you see ego, it loses its grip. Because awareness breaks illusion. The market is the most honest mirror you'll ever face. It doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It reflects everything: your discipline, your chaos, your weakness, your strength. And when you stop blaming it, you finally begin to hear what it's been saying all along. I was never against you. I was you. The chart isn't your battlefield. It's your reflection. And until you understand that, you'll keep fighting ghosts that look exactly like you. But once you do, once you realize that the market doesn't punish or reward, it only reveals, you'll see that trading has never been about money. It's always been about mastery. And mastery begins the moment the mirror no longer scares you. Emotion is the invisible force behind every trade. You don't see it on the chart. But it's there, quietly shaping every decision you make. Fear. Greed. Hope. Desperation. Each one a signal, louder than any candlestick pattern. Most traders think they act on logic. But the truth is, logic often arrives too late. By the time your brain analyzes, your heart has already decided. And the market, as always, reacts not to your plan, but to your emotion. Every trader enters with a reason, but exits with a feeling. That's the cycle no one escapes. Until they learn to see it. Fear is the first trap. It wears many masks. The fear of losing. The fear of missing out. The fear of being wrong. It starts small, a hesitation, a doubt. Then it grows louder. Don't take the trade. Take it now before it runs. Exit before you lose more. Fear doesn't want clarity. It wants safety. But safety has no place in trading. Because every trade is uncertainty by nature. When you try to feel safe in uncertainty, you overreact. You cut winners short. You widen stops. You seek comfort in control. And that comfort is the most expensive illusion in trading. Fear convinces you to escape pain. But in doing so, you feed it. Because every time you react to fear, you teach your brain that it was right. That the only way to survive is to avoid discomfort. And so the loop continues. The chart isn't your problem. Your nervous system is. Then comes greed. The other shadow. The one that wears confidence like armor. But is made of the same fear underneath. Fear of not having enough. Greed tells you that you're invincible. It whispers, you deserve more. Hold longer. Double the position. The market owes you. And for a moment, it feels good. Until the market reminds you that it owes you nothing. Greed isn't hunger for profit. It's the ego's need for significance. To prove it's smarter than the rest. That's why greed doesn't end when the trade is green. It ends when the illusion of control collapses. The problem isn't making money. It's thinking that money validates who you are. And so, when you lose it, you don't just lose capital. You lose identity. Every trader who has blown an account didn't lose to the market. They lost to themselves. Because when emotion hijacks the system, Discipline dies quietly. There's a moment between impulse and action. A small gap where awareness can intervene. That moment is where mastery lives. But most traders never see it. Because they move too fast. They trade from emotion. Not observation. From reaction. Not reflection. If you can slow down. If you can watch the emotion rise without obeying it. You take back control. Not control over the market. That's impossible. But control over yourself. That's the real edge. Not a strategy, not an indicator. But emotional discipline. The best traders aren't cold or robotic. They feel everything. They just don't act on it. They use emotion as signal, not command. When fear spikes, they see it as overextension. When greed appears, they sense a top forming. They've learned to read their own emotions. As part of market structure. Because emotion isn't the enemy. It's the language of the crowd. And if you understand your own, you understand theirs. But to get there, you must face the silence after loss. That heavy quiet when the chart has already moved. And you're left staring at what could have been. That silence is where emotion reveals its true form. Not as chaos, but as attachment. Attachment to outcome. To identity. To validation. You think you're addicted to trading. But what you're really addicted to is the emotional rush of uncertainty. The dopamine hit of being right. The sting of being wrong. Trading is not a financial activity. It's an emotional amplifier. It magnifies what's already inside you. If you're impatient, it exposes it. If you're arrogant, it feeds it. If you're fearful, it multiplies it. That's why emotional mastery isn't about controlling the market. It's about regulating the self. Because in the end, the market doesn't move because of your feelings. It moves because millions of traders act out their emotions simultaneously. And when you can see that, when you can stand above it, observe it without reacting, you stop being part of the crowd. You become the observer. And in that stillness, emotion loses its power. Fear becomes information. Greed becomes warning. Patience becomes your weapon. That's how emotion transforms. From trap to signal. From noise to wisdom. The market doesn't demand perfection. It demands awareness. Because emotion doesn't disappear when you master it. It just changes shape. And if you can listen to it, without obeying it, you'll find what most traders never do. Clarity. Emotion will always exist. You can't kill it. You can only understand it. And when you do, the market no longer feels like chaos. It feels like rhythm. A rhythm that starts and ends within your own mind. There comes a point in every trader's journey when emotion no longer feels like the enemy. When you think you've finally conquered it. You stop revenge trading. You follow your plan. You breathe before every entry. It feels like progress. And it is. But this is where a new illusion begins. The illusion of mastery. Because the mind doesn't give up control easily. It only changes form. Ego doesn't disappear. It adapts. Now it hides behind discipline. It says, you're calm now. You're different. You understand the market. It makes you believe you've transcended emotion. That you've become immune to chaos. But the moment you start believing that, you stop observing yourself. And that's when the market humbles you again. Mastery isn't about feeling in control. It's about realizing you never were. You can't control the market. And you can't permanently control emotion. You can only witness them both. Moment by moment. Trade by trade. The illusion of mastery begins. When you start mistaking consistency for invincibility. After a few good weeks, you start loosening your guard. Your stops widen. Your risk tolerance grows. You start to trust your intuition again. But not the grounded kind. The kind that's secretly powered by pride. Ego whispers. You've earned this confidence. And it feels true. Until one bad week takes it all away. The truth is, even discipline can become another mask for ego. Because sometimes, being too disciplined is just another way to feel superior. You start judging other traders. You start giving advice you barely follow. You feel wiser, calmer, more in control. And in that self-image, you lose touch with reality. The more you identify as a disciplined trader, the more fragile that identity becomes. Because every mistake now threatens who you think you are. You're no longer just losing a trade. You're losing your self-image. And that's where pain multiplies. You don't just feel loss. You feel shame. Because the mind says, you should have known better. But the truth is, even the most disciplined trader is still human. And mastery isn't the absence of mistakes. It's the ability to see them without collapsing into judgment. Real mastery is quiet. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need to prove anything. It's built on humility. The kind that accepts how small we are in front of the market's vastness. Because the market isn't something you defeat. It's something you dance with. And every dance requires rhythm. Not control. You can have the best strategy in the world. But if your rhythm is off, the market will remind you. It's not punishing you. It's teaching you. Every loss is a mirror. Every win, a test. Both ask the same question. Can you stay centered? If you can celebrate without arrogance and lose without despair, you're getting close to mastery. But the illusion doesn't fade easily. Sometimes it returns in silence. You wake up, open the charts, and suddenly everything feels predictable. You start seeing patterns everywhere. You feel like the market's rhythm is speaking directly to you. And that's the trap. Because the market is designed to seduce the mind with meaning. To make you believe you know. But the moment you think you know, you stop listening. And the moment you stop listening, you stop learning. True traders never stop being students. Because the market is infinite. And your understanding will always be partial. Mastery isn't the end of learning. It's learning how to stay humble. Even when you're right. When you meet traders who seem calm, measured, almost detached, don't mistake that for coldness. That's wisdom carved by pain. They've been burned enough times to know that the moment they think they've mastered it, they'll lose again. They've learned to see patterns, not as certainties, but as probabilities. They've accepted that chaos and order live in the same chart. That randomness isn't the enemy. It's the environment. They've stopped trying to predict. They've started to adapt. Because mastery isn't about control. It's about alignment. Aligning your mind with the rhythm of uncertainty. Letting go of the need to win. And focusing instead on staying balanced. No matter the outcome. And yet, ego waits in the background. It never dies. It just changes its costume. Even humility can become pride. Even detachment can become arrogance. That's why the journey never ends. You can't beat the market. You can only outgrow the parts of yourself that keep fighting it. That's the paradox of mastery. The higher you climb, the more you realize how little control you truly have. And yet, somehow, that realization brings peace. Because when you stop needing control, you start gaining clarity. When you stop chasing certainty, you start seeing truth. And in that truth, the illusion fades. The market is no longer your opponent. It becomes your mirror, reflecting not your skill, but your state of mind. The illusion of mastery isn't a failure, it's a phase. A necessary illusion that breaks the ego and teaches humility through repetition. In time, you learn that mastery isn't about knowing more than others. It's about knowing yourself deeper than before. And when you finally understand that, the chart stops shouting. The noise fades. And all that's left is rhythm. Steady, patient, unshaken. That's the beginning of real mastery. There's a war every trader fights. But it doesn't happen on the screen. It happens in silence. Inside. Every morning, before the first candle forms, there's a battle between patience and impulse. Between logic and emotion. Between awareness and ego. And the hardest part is, no one else can see it. You sit there, staring at a chart. But the real chart is your mind. The trends, the reversals, the volatility. They're all happening inside you. Some days, the war is loud. You feel the pressure. The urge to click, to move, to act. You know you should wait. But the silence becomes unbearable. You start mistaking stillness for weakness. And that's when you lose. The market doesn't punish you for being wrong. It punishes you for being impatient. Because impatience is emotion disguised as logic. It's the whisper that says, if I don't act now, I'll miss it. But there's nothing to miss. Because the market will always give you another chance. It's your mind that won't. Every trader who's ever made it has scars from this silent war. Scars from battles fought alone. In rooms filled only with screens and regrets. They've all learned the same painful truth. The war never ends. You just get better at hearing it before it starts. The ego always wants movement. It can't stand silence. It feeds on noise. On charts, on opinions, on predictions. It wants to feel involved. Because stillness feels like death to the ego. But that's the irony. Stillness is not death. It's awareness. It's power. In silence, you begin to see clearly. You start noticing how every candle tries to pull you into its story. You start hearing the rhythm beneath the randomness. And you realize that your reactions, not the market, create most of your losses. It's not that you entered too early or too late. It's that you entered from emotion, not awareness. The silent war is fought in milliseconds. The moment your plan meets temptation. The moment your discipline meets opportunity. The moment your patience whispers, wait. And your ego screams, now. That moment decides everything. The untrained mind moves. The trained mind watches. Because in trading, movement is easy. Stillness is hard. And yet, it's stillness that pays you. Most traders chase the market. A few learn to follow it. But only the rare ones learn to listen. Listening is not prediction. It's alignment. It's knowing when not to trade. It's feeling the rhythm of uncertainty. and allowing it to unfold without resistance. Those who master this silence stop reacting to every wave. They become part of the ocean. And when that happens, everything slows down. The noise fades. The candles stop screaming for attention. You stop trading to win. You start trading to understand. But make no mistake. This silence isn't peace. It's a battlefield disguised as calm. Every day, the same enemies return. Fear. Greed. Doubt. Pride. They knock at your mind, asking to be let back in. And your awareness decides whether to open the door or not. The battle isn't about destroying them. You can't. They're part of you. The goal is to see them clearly. To greet them without letting them lead. You say, I see you, fear. I see you, greed. And then you act, not from them, but from awareness. That's victory. Not the kind you can measure in profit, but the kind that reshapes who you are. The silent war is what makes trading spiritual. Because the market forces you to meet yourself. Again and again, without mercy. It exposes every flaw, every insecurity, every illusion of control. It breaks you, rebuilds you. And breaks you again. Until you stop fighting what is. Until you finally understand that the goal isn't to win the war. It's to make peace with it. Because once you make peace, the war changes shape. Losses no longer define you. Wins no longer inflate you. You stop chasing and start aligning. And in that alignment, you find something greater than profit. Clarity. Clarity doesn't shout. It whispers. It says, wait. Observe. Act when ready. It's calm, quiet, and almost invisible. That's why so few find it. But once you do, you realize the war was never against the market. Or other traders. Or algorithms. It was always against your own mind. The restless, fearful, overconfident mind. That can't sit still in uncertainty. The moment you learn to sit still, the war ends. When that happens, trading becomes meditation. Every entry is an act of awareness. Every exit, an act of acceptance. Every loss, a reminder to return to balance. You stop trying to control outcomes. And start managing your state. Because you finally understand. The market rewards awareness, not aggression. Patience, not prediction. Stillness, not speed. That's the secret no one teaches. Because it can't be taught. It has to be lived. Lost. And rediscovered. And in that silence, you realize. You were never fighting the market. You were fighting yourself. And when you win that war, everything changes. The chart doesn't scare you anymore. The candles don't control you. You trade, you lose, you win. And through it all, you remain still. Because now, you've made peace with the noise. You've mastered the silence. And that's where the real profit lives. Not in your account, but in your mind.